Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, am I excited for today. Before I introduce you to our guest, here's a quote just for this episode. Small, smart choices plus consistency plus time equals radical difference. Darren Hardy. Our guest today exemplifies this quote. They are a good friend of the Culture Matters podcast. Leader. I've had the opportunity and pleasure, great pleasure of getting to know them over the last year or so, working with them in the trenches and seeing them actually lead by example in their domain of expertise. And I love their family and everything that they're about. Without further ado, we have the director of member strategy, an executive coach, a leader, a sales connoisseur, one of the best people on the phone that I've ever seen to actually do the work and make it look easy. Jim Williams, top contractor school leader. Thanks for coming on the Culture Matters podcast, brother. It's exciting to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. I can't wait. This is going to be good.
I would like your thoughts on this concept, right? The small, smart choices plus consistency plus time. And I'm asking that because of when I think about your career in without corporate America and how you show up every day in the trenches with TCS, I see consistency. I see small, smart choices. So what do you think about that quote, or what would you share, in your wisdom from just doing the work in your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I were to define small, smart choices, it's making the foundational stuff that keeps you moving every day. I mean, I think for me, it's important that you have two choices. You can pick the good road, which is going to lead you to, prosperity, or the other road that's going to lead you to misery. I think you always have to favor the one that's going to do, what's right for you and your family. At the end of the day, that's how all my decisions are made is, what's going to be best for me and my family. And if I'm always doing the right thing, it doesn't matter who's watching. I think that's critical for me is to stay focused on the smart small choices, which is, hey, I could pick my phone up and scroll through my phone for a half an hour when nothing's going on, or I could pick my phone up and call someone, and use that time wisely. So, those are the choices. It's good, bad, or indifferent, but you have the control over what those choices are. I think it's important to make those small decisions when the time comes and you're challenged. Do the right thing, and you're gonna benefit.
Over the years, like in the beginning, when you first started making outbound calls,
Yeah,
did you have call reluctance?
yeah. Yeah, well, doesn't everybody? I always say uncomfortable lasts for 20 seconds at a time. It's a quote that I read ages ago, and it's true. I mean, even now, and I've been doing it for 100 years, I feel like. But yeah, I mean, when I first started doing outbound calling, I would sit in the corner and I'd hunker down with my phone and I'd look around my cube and hope that no one was watching to see me fail. Because you do. It's just a matter of how frequently you fail, and the effort is there. So, eventually it's a numbers game. You pick the phone up and dial enough people, you're going to get a hold of the right person. But, along the way, it's like, the confidence that comes with continuing to fail and refine your processes, I think is what really makes it easy now to talk to people. And, I always tell my kids, like, we just talk to people. They always used to hear me on conference calls, and that was
Yeah.
what they thought I did. I mean, I'd pick them up at the bus stop or take them to school. I'd be on a call. Dad, what do you do? You just talk to people. That's it, really, right? So that was their perception of what I did when they were growing up is I just talk to people. So
What do you
yeah,
think is so hard about just talking to people?
talking to
There's so
people
many
and
of
not
us.
listening. Yeah, I mean, I think that's critical, right? So you have to listen more than you talk. The perception is you're on these calls and you're verbalizing, communicating, but the challenge is you've got to stop and actually listen, and I think that's it. So
Hmm. Did you, are there certain things that you would tell yourself to catch yourself when you were starting to talk too much that could be helpful for our audience? Like, or, like ways that you
Yeah,
kind of
when
meditated on that? Like,
well, I mean, I think in the process. So if there's a point where you think you're talking too much, you're already beyond the point of where you're talking too much.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So I
that's
got
good.
yeah, I think there just like don't overthink it. It's a conversation, but a conversation isn't a monologue. A conversation is bidirectional. It's communication from both people, right? So if there is a point where I get to the point where I'm thinking, gosh, I'm really rambling. It's an easy transition to say, hey, I'm really rambling here. Let me stop because I feel like you need to ask me some questions. And then own the fact that I've been rambling. So if that's the case, then undoubtedly you've got a question, you've got a follow up, you've got some insight that somebody's providing based on what the conversation looks like. So yeah, just think ahead.
Were you
If
ever
you're
afraid to own that?
no, I mean, I got to the point where it was like, I think from a relationship standpoint, when you're invested in the other person and you're always trying to do the right thing for them on their behalf, it's easy to own your mistakes or, the reluctance to, do the right thing. Hey, I didn't get back to you because of this, or, it's my fault entirely. I owe you this still. Let me work on that. I'm sorry it's taken so long. If you fall on the sword, the only person that's bleeding is you.
Huh.
You know what I mean? So I'd rather do that so that they don't struggle and have pain on their side and own the fact that, hey, I've made a mistake or I haven't delivered on what I told you. Then they say, oh, this guy's a real person. He cares
Mm.
about what we're doing.
A lot of our listeners are small business, and you talk to small business every day, all week.
Right.
A lot of what are some of the concerns you hear or questions that come to you or like that, like common conversations, themes
Yeah.
for
Yeah, I
small
mean, I
business?
think my top three, I mean, and I talk to contractors all the time. So it's day in and day out. I'm engaged with, small to medium businesses regularly, whether it's first generation, second generation. But I mean, my top three are relative to I'm working in the business, not on the business. So I'm reactive, I'm not visionary. I think is really kind of the one thing I hear all the time. And people don't come out and say, I'm I'm working in the business. They categorize and that's kind of what I narrow it down to is that's the biggest consistent theme that I hear from people all the time is I'm running here, I'm delivering this, I'm coaching this person, I'm doing that in the office, I'm doing payroll, trying to keep up with social media. Like that's the whole in the business, not on the business. And then from there, I would say it's relative to skilled labor, whether it's retaining skilled labor or finding the right people. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that people face right now. The grass is always greener somewhere else, and that's the perception. And this is great conversation, right? Relative to culture. So hey, maybe something's gone wrong that's causing me to look somewhere else. Maybe the culture is not a great fit. I want to go see what XYZ company's doing because I watch their social media and it looks like they have a lot of fun, or it looks like they do great work, or you name it. Somebody always has in their head, like, hey, I think this other company is going to provide what maybe I'm not getting, at this organization. So I think that, and then I think there's a technology reluctance. There's so many technology evolutions that continue to just dynamically change. That could be anywhere from like project management software, website, SEO, AI, simple as like social media, management and production. I think that's another thing that comes up routinely is I don't have time. I'm again working in the business, not on the business, and I always forget to put social media content or so that technology I would say is number three that comes up routinely.
Mm. What have you seen a community do for people that go all in about it? Like go all in with it,
Yeah,
entrepreneurs. Because you have
yeah. I
these
mean,
deep relationships with your
right.
people.
Yeah, I mean, the community, I think, really kind of just accelerates your failures. If you have other people who are already ahead of you in their failure, somebody might have tried 4 different times to do the same thing that you're struggling with. There's no reason that you should struggle when they have the answers to the questions that you're not asking. People just need to ask, and I think that's one thing that's unique with our community is there's a very open culture of, hey, can you help me with this? Or we see it all the time in our app. It's in the group chat. It's like, hey, I'm trying to do this, or what do you think about that? Really getting that insight from others. It could be software or like an employment document, or something simple as just a random question about day-to-day stuff. So don't hesitate to ask people who have success and are successful, and that's the people that you have to incorporate into your circle, is the people who are willing to help you, and in turn you need to provide that same help back when they need it.
Mm. Yeah, there are certain core values that you would say stand out for the most successful businesses that you've built relations with?
Yeah, I mean, I think open communication is one. I would say integrity is kind of an underlying theme. Always doing the right thing. Really being there for others and not yourself. I think if you have that mentality, that's kind of that servant leadership. Those are the cultures that really kind of drive success.
Now, how did you originally, was it 97 you started with Verizon?
It was, yeah,
96?
1997. Yeah, way back in the day.
Was it a mentor? Was it a you walked down the wrong alley?
Yeah, so I mean, if I go back and kind of talk about after college, and I feel like I've been a salesperson all my life.
Wow.
Way back when I was probably 8 years old, there was this mailer that came in the mail, and it was the Sunshine Sales Club, and they had this catalog of all these toys and prizes, and you'd go out and sell greeting cards and wrapping paper. And I used to go through my neighborhood, and I would take my catalog with me and say, hey, I'm with the Sunshine Sales Club, I'm out trying to get this prize. It's I have to sell this much stuff, and can you help me do that? So I've always had it. I always knocked on doors when I was growing up, and I love being out in the field. But yeah, I mean, for 1997, I sold photocopiers a year before I did that, knocking doors. That's really tough. You got to have some tenacity and grit, and willingness to do what it takes to get out in front of people. And a lot of it was door to door. If you think about it, you call a business and say, hey, I'm selling photocopiers. I've already got one. Thanks. I'm good. Right. It could be them, hand drawing whatever the copy is, and saying, I have a copier. But if you walk in and see it, because it always used to sit right in front of the receptionist. Oh,
Mm.
hey, this is from 100 years ago. Let's talk. So it was a little bit different and unique. But yeah, 97, man, I started, and I feel like I had a foundation of, doing the right thing from an engagement standpoint. One of the things that I wanted to build my brand on was there's nobody that's going to outwork me, and there's nobody that's going to out hustle me. So, I always have carried kind of the underdog status in my mind. I always had something to prove. So, if you keep that mindset, like even if you're successful in your head, you still have opportunity. So, it kind of creates a humbleness
Mm.
that allows you to continue to chase things day after day, and continue to really strive to be better. And that's one of the things I did, man. I would outwork people. There'd be people sitting on the sidelines, and I didn't care, how many people I talked to or how many they weren't going to talk to, but those were the people that I wanted to engage as I was working, day to day. So yeah.
Do you remember the first door at 8?
Yeah, there was this one house, man, I'd go to all the time, and it was this older couple, and they were just the cutest couple. I would say at the time they were probably like late 70s, and they'd always invite me in. They would ask if I needed a drink, or I always got like a treat. There was always a cookie or something. So yeah, Sunshine Sales Club, man, that was the thing.
What did they buy?
Usually they did wrapping paper. They were a big wrapping paper person. So, I mean, when you sell cards and wrapping paper, it's not many choices, but yeah, of all things, right? All because I got a prize at the end of the day.
How did you
So,
start the conversation?
hey, I'm with the Sunshine Sales Club, and I'm trying to earn this prize. Really kind of communicating the what's in it for me. What's in it for you is you can get some wrapping paper and help me achieve what I want to get in this. I don't even remember what the gifts were, right? I mean, it was like these little
Wow.
toys or something, and for me it was like, hey, there's the carrot on the stick, I'm going to get it.
Do you think there's something to salespeople starting young?
Yeah, I mean, you can fail more often when you don't know what you're doing, which gives you maybe an opportunity at a longer career in it. I think that's the trick, is you're gonna fail. It's just a matter of, how frequently, and then obviously from there, like, how do you refine what you're doing? You've got to be super analytical and kind of pay attention. And I always think too, the consistency of the conversation. So, if it's the similar topics and similar dialogue, then if you have structure and process, then it's easy to refine where you've made a mistake, or, parts or pieces that you need to tweak or tune. That's critical. So if you're scatterbrained and stuff's going on everywhere, then that chaos makes it harder to refine where your mistakes are.
Hmm. Yeah. What's some of what a process that's worked for you over the years? I'm thinking, right, you're reaching out, and then how the heck do I follow up? I don't even know who I'm following up with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Chaos.
Brian makes fun of me, but I'm a paper guy, man. I started when I was selling photocopiers. It was like, you'd stop into a place and you fill out a little 3x5 index card, and that was my CRM. So,
Wow.
I would kind of leverage, kind of old school before CRM was a thing. I was doing it on an index card in a little box, and I would have a different box for each city that I was in. And those were my stop ins, those were my notes that I could reference and pull up. And then I kind of used that as a benchmark of, hey, I've got to stop back and see this person on this date. So that would go in a certain spot in the, in the box for the cards. And, I would have tabs on each of where to go and who to talk to, and, my contacts, my conversation. So that was kind of predating, but, I wasn't there with a
Wow.
chisel hammered it into the stone, but same difference with paper. So yeah, I mean, I've kind of always been that paper guy. So I feel like I learned things by writing. So
Hmm.
it's that double data entry, right? It's coming in the ears, it's coming out on the paper, and then it's two times as much. So it helps me retain. And we kind of play this game. Joyce will say, "Oh, hey, so and so," and I start rattling off like what they do, where they're at, what company it is, what challenges they have. So yeah, name that tune.
Wow. What are some ways to build the habit of follow up?
I think failing at it, when you don't do it and you have to own the fact that you didn't do it the right way the first time, you start to learn very quickly that, if people are going to buy your product, they're going to engage you for any next steps, then you have to do what you say you're going to do. If you don't, then there's no reason that they should engage you, or, get back to you, chasing you. If you're waiting to provide something to them that they need to make a decision, it's your own fault if you're not following up accordingly. So yeah, but I think the other thing though, and it's more conversational, but I think a lot of people fail to ask. Hey, we've had a great conversation. That being said, where do you see next steps? I'll tell you what I think after you tell me. Listen and get their thoughts, and then you can suggest if they're unsure, like, oh, I'm not sure. Where do we go from here? Well, here's what I was thinking. Here's what I would envision maybe some next alternatives are. Would you like to, maybe you could, have you thought about, so you've got some alternatives that you've positioned, and now it becomes multiple choice. instead of yes or no. Do you want me to follow up? No, I'm good. I'll think about it. Or, hey, these are a couple of ideas. Which do you like? What are they going to do? If there's three choices, they're going to pick one of the three, and no is never one of those answers.
Mm.
It's not yes or no. It's A, B, or C, and now you've got your next steps figured out.
Why don't we ask?
They're afraid, right? I'm afraid that this conversation didn't go well. I don't know that they're going to decide to take any next steps. I don't know that they're interested. I can't believe how bad this presentation was. They're not going to buy from me, right? It's all mental. It's all in your head. I think a lot of times people outthink themselves. They get in their head more than they should. It's simple, dude. We just talk to people. It's conversation. So if
Yeah.
you have made it through an entire presentation, there's active engagement on both parts, then you have every right to ask what the next steps are, right? If there's, trial closes along the way that you've positioned the product and, gained their feedback and agreement to next steps, then there's no reason that at the end of that presentation, you shouldn't be asking, okay, so is anything that we've talked about a bad idea in your mind? No? Okay, then here's what I see as next steps. Do you agree?
What do you think are the differences between like, if I'm even saying this wrong, correct me, but a salesperson and a professional salesperson?
Yeah. Salespeople sling product. A professional drives relationships.
Can you elaborate?
I would love to. Yeah. So, the whole salesperson is selling gift cards and wrapping paper. I have products. Would you like to buy these? And I think that retail mindset is, hey, here's what I have. Do you want to buy any of these? How many times do you walk into a retail store? Somebody approaches you. Is there something I can help you with? Well, the answer is always no, right? I don't want a salesperson chasing me around to sell me stuff that I want to look, I want to, figure out. I'll come to you if I need help. The professional is a person who gains trust, asks questions, provides insight that connects the dots between what their challenges or pain points are and where there's value in the product or solution that you have.
Mm.
And then where there's advantage for that person. But it's all done from a relationship standpoint. You don't walk in and say, hey, I appreciate you having me in your office today for this meeting. I sell this, this, and this. What would you like to buy? It's tell me about your business. Where are your challenges in your business? With this challenge, what happens? What's the result of this challenge? What isn't happening in the business because of this pain point that you have? So if you not only ask the one question and listen, but understand where there's maybe some underlying challenges that they're having relative to that, when you dig into that, they answer all the questions for you because they need help. And when your product or solution can help them with that, then it's an easy, hey, what are next steps? Where do
Mm.
we go from here?
Mm. How do you maintain the relationships over the long term?
I think it's engagement, and it's not product positioning. It's relationship of, hey, we were talking this last time, and you told me this about your family, or you had this event that you were going to. Paying attention to those things that are important to people, I think is really critical. So, I forget how it goes, but they don't know how much you care, or something like that. But if you pay attention to the little things, it's important to people. That's why they brought it up. That's why they took the time to tell you about their 6-year old and the chorus concert that they were playing in, or band camp that they went to. Those things are important. So I got a note the other day from a guy. We talked probably three months ago, and he had a dog who was 9 years old, not doing too hot, and just got a message from him about a follow up. And I didn't ask him anything about next steps. I simply said, "Hey, what's going on with your dog?" He had to put the dog down last week.
Oh,
So,
wow.
things like that, that you're not following up to present, a product to them. You're following up because you've got a relationship with somebody.
Hmm.
I think that's important. That's how you have those long-term relationships. That's what is valuable to people because not everybody does that, right? There's a lot of salespeople that present a product, ask you to buy it. They we talked about commission breath the other day. They need to get a commission. They need to sell something. They don't have a big funnel. They're not talking to enough people. They haven't
Hmm.
developed enough relationships, and had those engagements. So they're calling back to that person to say, "Hey, would you buy this product? I need to sell this product." That's not really a professional. That's a salesperson.
Hmm. What were you selling in the beginning in the late 90s, early 2000s? What was that product or deliverable service?
Yeah, so I worked for Verizon. At that point, I was in retail for 10 years. So I was in a retail store, and at that point, it was a lot of pre technology bag phones and the big brick phones. We used to wheel bag
Wow.
phones out all the time, and the middle of the sales floor, they were like $900, and but the connectivity, the need for people to have access, safety, security, at 75 cents a minute, it wasn't really like you're on your phone like you are now, right? It's not unlimited and unlimited
75
data.
cents a minute?
Yeah, yeah. $20 a month, 75 cents a minute. You pay for every minute. You got 200 minutes a night and weekends. And once that 9 o'clock at night hit, man, people were on their cell phone, talking on their cell phone. But yeah, it was a bear otherwise.
Hmm. Well, how
Yep.
was the energy back then? Like, was there
Crazy.
great energy?
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it was crazy. It was like the Wild West, man. Nobody had cell phones, and there was so much demand, and it was an emerging technology. And I feel like I got in right as the wave was starting to swell. And, I was there for 27 years of, the dynamic change, right? You go from analog to digital, and, the StarTAC was a big thing. And, we used to sell those all the time when phones got small. And, now we've got monster phones that are more powerful than the computers that we have on our desk, 20 years ago. So, it was crazy how that shifted. And then from there, like security and things like remote monitoring and machine to machine, and, some of the technology advancements of, what you can do with that type of a network. It was crazy how that evolved, and that allowed the conversations and relationships to continue. So,
How,
yeah.
how has that specific company built such deep relationships? Because I heard a statistic of, I think it was at the recent gathering in January about doing,
99% of Fortune 500 companies have Verizon.
yeah, so that means if that's 495 of them, that's crazy.
It's a
How?
lot. Yeah.
How
Well,
do
I
they
mean,
do
I,
that? How did they
I,
do that?
I think from one of the things that Verizon always did well was the network. They invested in having the best network, and that was kind of what we prided ourselves on was, the network investment, the people, the "Can you hear me now" guy that first started. We actually had those people when I first started.
Great tagline.
Yeah, we used to take in the back of your car, like you could work on a weekend and do a baseline drive test. So you got a box of like 3 or 4 different phones. You would go out and they would be all connected, and then you would drive. And then we would see a map after that drive test of, hey, here's where there's marginal signal. We need to fix this. So at first it was the people who were, just part of the company. I started and there were, maybe 30 or 40 people in our region.
Wow.
And then, when I left, it was probably 120,000 people that worked for the company.
Holy cow.
So yeah, it was crazy.
What type of training was that early on, and did that have any impact on your
Oh
career?
yeah, always, man, ongoing. Like you couldn't turn left or right without running into training. We got to a point where there was a ton of in-person trainings that we would do. So our regional headquarters, we had a ton of training. We had some of the best trainers, charismatic, engaging, energetic, just people who really believed in what we were doing. So it was easy to absorb that training from them. And those conversations with them were really, role playing, things like that. They were really beneficial. But there was probably, 3, 4 online trainings a week that would come out, whether that was product or technology, partnerships, relationships. There was a ton of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I would say that's one thing foundationally that the company did super advanced trainings, and
How do
it
you
was
think
real
that
good.
helped?
I
Did
mean,
it, how do
yeah,
you
it
think
just
that
gives
helped?
you another bullet in the gun, right? I mean, when you're out in the field and you're talking to people, you have all of that knowledge and insight. You have product solutions that you've been trained well on, advanced technology, how the network works, things like that. Yeah, the more information that you have, you become that trusted advisor. You become consultative at that point instead of somebody
You
who is
know,
just pitching a product.
the more you know, the less pitch.
Yeah, I mean, you can answer the questions. If you can answer the questions, then there's a trust that's developed, and I think a lot of that is relative to advancing the conversation.
Mm, wow. Um, I would say, what was there I would say like the best customers that you worked with over the years?
Yeah,
What attributes did they have, or like core values?
yeah, I think they were always open to learning. If you're a perpetual learner, you want to do what's right for your company. You have to ask a lot of questions, and you have to have an intelligence about those questions. I think that's one of the things that a lot of the people that I had great relationships with, they would ask, and then they would sit and listen and absorb, and connect the dots of where it's beneficial for them and how they advance that for their business.
Hmm. Hmm. But for those that are listening that are not part of any community, you have 60 seconds conversation with them, and it's clear that you've asked those questions that they would benefit from it
Yeah.
in what they have and haven't said. What do you say to them if they're on the fence of being a part of something?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's an opportunity to engage people who have had a success because they've collaborated with their peers. When there's an openness to share information to help somebody else out, then you receive help back. And that's really the value of community. If you're in a community to only take, then you're in the wrong place. If
Mm,
you're in a community to give, then you receive as much as you give.
amen. Jim, did you have a word for 2025? Or if
I
not,
did.
what would it be?
I do, brother, man. I'm on it too.
Yeah.
It's communicate. Yeah, it's important for me. I feel like the more clear that I can be and transparent with what I do and where I need help, it's really important for me. And then that kind of turned into, calm, which then was, kind of a lot of derivatives came from, right? So, I mean, that's my thing. Like it's been in my head every day. I talk to Joyce routinely about it. We have conversations about communication or lack of communication. That's my focus. That's my word. So it's never been more of a refined word for the year. So I'm on it, man.
You mentioned Joyce. This is your wife.
Yeah.
She's a joy. What would you say is something she's taught you over the years?
The thing I love about her, man, is she's just so humble and down to earth. Like she is a giver.
Yeah.
I don't think she has one bone in her body that she takes from people. She's got the most unique smile, and it just really kind of causes people to be so open with her. And man, I love that. It's so cool to watch her and as she engages people, and it's crazy. Like she'll be in a conversation with somebody about some random, and she interrupts and says, kind of pulls somebody in close, and you just see her ask something about like a piece of jewelry or a bracelet, or and their face lights up. It's like she has this way of being such a real person, but being true to who she is. Yeah, I mean, dude, she just gets it. So
She is the best. We love her so much. We'll have to get her on the show.
Yeah,
It would be awesome. Um, I am curious about like for our entrepreneurs that they maybe they've stopped doing some of the things that got them, you know, how do you get back on the horse? Like,
yeah. I,
how
I
do you
mean,
get
that's
back in the flow of how do you get back in the flow?
yeah,
Maybe I've been on the business and now I need to get back in, like,
yeah.
because you're interacting with so many business owners.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a balance, right? So I think a lot of people have that mindset of, I'm going to get out of working in the business and I'm going to be visionary and work on the business, which means that I don't have to do the minutia, the day to day, or you still have to be engaged with that stuff. You have to be aware. Think of it from a coaching perspective. So, you take a year being visionary and working on the business, and now you've missed maybe a technology advancement, or
Mm,
you don't see what's happening in the field because you allow somebody else to manage that process and you're disconnected from it. If that's the case, then you need to balance that visionary versus the operational day to day and making the business run and be profitable. And I think sometimes people have that mindset of like, I'm only going to work 8 hours a week on this business. Yeah, well, good luck with that. Um,
yeah, can you elaborate? Like, what have you seen and what it actually takes some of those successful people that you worked with
yeah,
in your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a lot of companies that, business owners, specifically, they have to have forethought, they have to have vision, they have to know where they want to go, and they have to chase that relentlessly. And if that means taking out the garbage at the end of the day, and then the next morning you're in to make coffee, then that's what you do, right? If you lead by example and always do the right thing because you never know who's watching, then there should be no question about your integrity, your commitment,
Mm,
your next steps for the business. If you're always relaying that vision to people, it's not hard for them to follow you, and you do it with confidence and pride. Those are the most successful
mm.
businesses that I've worked with. Those are the types of peoples and the attributes that they've had. That's kind of where it's at. So there's a mix of being visionary, but you can't walk away from it. Otherwise, it's going to slam into a brick wall, and you're going to be stuck. You're never going to recover from that.
How did Verizon balance that in their explosive growth from that 40 to 100,000 plus? What were some
Yeah,
things we could draw on?
yeah. I mean, I think from that regard, I mean, it was really developing and culturing the right leaders who had experience growing up in the business.
Mm,
Verizon always promoted from within very well. So, I started in retail as a sales rep and got promoted several different times. There was a point where I was managing retail stores, and that wasn't really enough for me from a growth perspective. I always knew there was more. And I saw that in the business channel. So, I mean, I left and started at the bottom. And, over the course of time, I mean, I got promoted to, small to medium business to major accounts. And then as I left my career there, I was leading enterprise sales teams that were, accounts that were across the country. And some of the top, I always say, like, if there was a name on the building, those were our customers.
wow.
Those were the accounts that we had.
What did they want? How did they think? Like how were those enterprises thinking?
Yeah.
Seems like a totally different paradigm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and at that point it's different depending on who you're engaged with, right? So I mean, I think there's some relationships that are at the C level, in those national enterprise accounts, that those are the best when you can have that visionary conversation that, you've painted a picture on how technology solutions are going to benefit them. And maybe it's not today. Maybe it's an executive briefing that you've done to brief them on technology and where there's value for their company. Those are the relationships that you want to be in. And then there's transactional relationships with somebody who is a purchasing manager who is really just looking to drive, the least cost solution, and they don't really care other than their benchmark of hey, I saved the company X amount of dollars.
Mm.
So there were those transactional relationships that, were out there as well. So yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on the level of engagement that you're at, and then, where you can provide value. But if you're not asking, beyond that procurement manager, for those relationships, then you're never going to get to that point where it is relational. It's always going to be transactional.
How did you get through? I guess that in a sense, that's getting through the metaphorical gatekeeper.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just asking questions. I loved being in the weeds. I love talking to people. There was never a time where I wasn't looking for, that conversation to get me to the next person. So, and
Mm.
and I'd always challenge our teams, like, look, who else are you talking to? It's great that we came here to buy this procurement person lunch, but what did we get out of the day today? We just spent, $300 on lunch. Did that get us a ticket to, another conversation, or, where does that take us? Because we're not here just to donate money to someone's appetite. We're looking to advance our relationship, and to do that, it's all conversational, that we ask the right questions. We know who we're looking to get to. So you have to position and ask, hey, how do I talk to this person?
Mm.
I always relate it to storytelling, Jay. Like, it was, hey, one of these other accounts that I work with, we were talking in an executive briefing, and, we were talking about how this technology would benefit, or this solution set, really drove some value in their business. It saved them cost on operationally, or, you tie it back to a couple of things: revenue, image, expense. When you can start to connect those dots, people go, oh yeah, we want to save money, or, hey, we want to create efficiency in our teams in the field. That's what advances those conversations, is
Mm.
really, taking their pain point, painting a picture and saying, hey, this is what another company did, and here's how they benefited. You're doing it that way. So sometimes that storytelling is advantageous, because it paints the picture. You've probably, when you were growing up, you probably watched Bob Ross painting pictures, right? He talks along the
Oh yeah.
way. He's
Mhm.
he's got the burnt umber and raw sienna, and he's telling about the colors, and so that's how you tell a story to generate engagement, when
Mm.
maybe there's not, that pretty relationship that everybody desires.
And then having the courage to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Mm.
I mean, the alternative is it's yes or it's no. If you drive the relationship and you've done the right thing for people, then a lot of times it is yes. But if you don't ask, it's always no.
But it seems that the ask has a relationship with what one knows, and that has a relationship with the training.
Sure. 100%.
In your yeah, in your conversations, your relationship building with these, and your strategy with membership of the top contractor school, what would you say what's a top contractor look like? Feel like, I don't want to be a bottom contractor. What's a top contractor look like, feel like? What questions do they ask?
Yeah, I
What do
mean,
they
I
think?
would, I would really kind of connect it to, what are other community members doing, and where have they received benefit? I get a lot of questions about, how are you going to fix my problems? But, if you can benchmark where they started compared to somebody else who has driven and been successful from education and mentorship, then they can see visionary, like, okay, if this member's been here and gone from 3 million to 23 million over the course of 5 years, I'm at 2.5 right now. These are the steps that are necessary to get to that. Here's the timeline of where I'm gonna, 5x my business. Then they can start to understand, like, okay, here's where I'm at now. Here's where somebody else in the community was successful, and here's what it took them to grow. Because then it becomes a conversation where you start to connect people. So don't
Mm.
take it from me, take it from our members, who have had success, and leveraging us in partnership, and where they receive that value and their perceived value.
Hmm.
I'd rather somebody else tell a potential member than me to tell them. Don't take it from me, take it from them.
How intentional are they?
The existing members,
The
or
top ones.
oh, yeah, the top ones. I mean, they all want to help people, and that's the constant. Is it blows my mind every day how those people will bend over backwards to help somebody else and completely interrupt what they're doing and
Hmm.
drop everything to go and have a conversation, to talk about their experience, to do the right thing, because they know when they do that, then they're going to receive something back from somebody else.
You think it's like that? You want to get something done, give it to the busiest person.
100%. Yeah.
You've
Yep.
noticed that.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
for
That's
sure.
great.
Yeah. And dude, I love the chaos of being busy because I feel like I'm 10 times as productive when it's like mad, right? There's dogs and cats falling from the sky and I'm like, because that's the best time to have those energetic
Yeah.
conversations, to reconnect with people. It's when you're on the road. It's when have an Uber ride somewhere to your next meeting. It's when you've got 13 calls that are on your schedule, and there's 7 minutes that you finished a call early, and you can pick the call up and go, hey, I've got 7 minutes. I wanted to reach out to you. Do you have 3 minutes to talk and use my time?
Ah, I love the reverse.
Right?
Yeah. How more in closing, how important is energy?
Oh yeah. I mean, I got kicked in the teeth a month or two ago, and I feel like mentally I struggled. It was really driven behind that mental, I wasn't thinking right, right? So it's mental toughness. It's, being positive. I had a challenging month, and it was like, as I look back on it, it was all me. I did it to myself. When that happened, I decided like I'm never letting that happen again. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it. Energetic, positive. There's a couple things foundationally that I changed. I used to get up and work out every morning. I wasn't doing that. I started to focus on reading the Bible every morning for 15 minutes, as my first thing. I come down, I get a coffee, I hop into the Bible app on my phone. I'm reading some Bible for 15 minutes, reflecting. And then at that point, then I'd clear my notifications. The things that kind of mentally bog you down, I would do after that. And I would set a 5 minute timer. Hey, I'm going to flip through my notifications, catch up on email, look at my calendar for the day, and then I go work out. That mindset shift has really changed my energy. It's refined my focus. Yeah, I mean, dude, energy is important, but also that mental stability that comes with balancing yourself, I think, is important too. So, if you're not doing that, I would come up with some type of morning structure. When you get up to chaos, then the rest of your day is chaos. When
Hmm.
you get up to organization, then the rest of your day is in that same format.
Jim, you're the man. If you're listening to this episode, how can people connect with you fastest? They want to get to know you, be a part of what you're a part of, your community, the top contractor school, just get to know you better. What's the fastest way to do that?
Yeah, call or text 412-290-8000, topcontractorschool.com. Check us out there, but feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm one of the executive coaches on the team. I lead all of the sales coaching for the organization. So my page is on Top Contractor School. You can click there and reach out to me directly. Be glad to have a conversation with anybody. Let me know where I can help.
If you're listening to this episode, I'd re-listen a couple times. If you're not, making hot calls, baby. Connect with
Smiling and dialing, brother.
connect with Jim. Shoot him a text, give him a call. Please share this with a friend that needs to hear it. And we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Thanks, brother.
Appreciate it.